and let's talk about, let's watch this video. It's by Big Dan Gaming, and it's called, I guess you know already, Star Citizen exposed, 500 million raised, 10 years in development, no release date in sight. We might as well...
On October 18th, 2012,
stop it again and watch it again.
Imperium Games announced a Kickstarter campaign for a bold new project. Star Citizen was set to be a massive space simulation game, complete with a persistent universe, trading, FPS combat, ship fighting, customizable spaceships, a single-player campaign, online multiplayer, and a massive galaxy with over 100 star systems to explore. The goal was to raise $2 million to fund development and release the game in November 2014. Within weeks, Star Citizen smashed crowdfunding records, raising over $2.1 million on Kickstarter before continuing fundraising on their own website, robertspaceindustries.com. Fast forward to 2022. Star Citizen has raised nearly $500 million over the past decade, and yet the game is still nowhere near complete, leaving many people wondering why. This is a story of uncompromising ambition and the power of crowdfunding. It's also a story of broken promises, missed deadlines, lack of accountability, and incredible scope creep on an unprecedented scale for the video game industry. In this video, we're doing a deep dive on Star Citizen, from the project's inception to the present.
I'm always interested in watching these kinds of videos from people that are not really like Star Citizens or like players of Star Citizen. So I want to see their perspective. Because like it's easier to see how the outsiders see you, and also it's sometimes it's like more realistic.
Fully understand the saga of Star Citizen, we first need to investigate the project's creator.
Exposed.
Austin, Texas, late 1980s. A young Chris Roberts strolls into the offices of Origin Systems and pitches his idea for an ambitious space simulator game. The day Chris Roberts came in to pitch Wing Commander was one I will never forget, recalled colleague Richard.
It's funny how Chris called like all the makers in what's it called? In Star Citizen, all the ship makers like Anvil. He worked in Digital Anvil, right? Origin, etc. Like all the companies where he worked at.
It was obvious to all who saw it that this was a winning formula. It was obvious that Chris was a true visionary.
I think the end boss is going to be Microsoft.
September 1990, Wing Commander would go on to be a smashing success,
Star Citizen,
selling nearly 300,000 copies by February 1995. This cemented Chris Roberts' reputation as a rock star in the gaming industry. Wing Commander's success also caught the eye of Electronic Arts, who purchased Origin Systems in 1992. With EA's backing, Origin would go on to make 3 sequels in the franchise. But despite a massive increase in financial backing, Chris Roberts was not thrilled with the sale to EA. I wouldn't have been able to make Wing Commander 3 without EA buying Origin. The downside is as you get bigger and become more beholden to things like, we need the sequel here, and we need you in this release window, it feels like you're in a machine versus creating stuff that you're really 100% excited about. Chafing under the management of his corporate overlords.
I mean, if I never had like a release schedule for my music, I would never like release anything. Even if it's like set myself.
Roberts left Origin in 1996 and founded his own studio, Digital Anvil.
It can also
with
spark
7
your
partners, including his brother Aaron.
creativity.
From the start, Roberts took on hugely ambitious projects, including his magnum opus, Freelancer. But 4 years later, the company still hadn't released its own game, aside from Starlancer, which was mostly developed by a partner studio called Warthog Games. By this point, Freelancer was massively over budget and delayed into 2001. Digital Anvil was in dire financial straits, so they decided to sell the company to Microsoft, and Chris Roberts walked away from the studio entirely. Eurogamer reported on the sale in December 2000. Having left the monolithic corporate world that is Electronic Arts almost 5 years ago to found Digital Anvil in the first place, it is somewhat ironic that his dream development studio is now being taken over by the monolithic corporate world that is Microsoft. And Roberts has confirmed that his decision to leave the company is simply because he has no desire to find himself in the same situation again. With 2 game studios sold in less than a decade, Roberts decided
I'm
to
loving
turn
this
his
music.
attention to Hollywood, having dabbled in film production during the 1990s and early 2000s. He made his directorial debut in 1999 with Wing Commander, a film based on his game franchise. After the Microsoft sale, when Eurogamer learned of Roberts' Hollywood plans, they wrote, "Oh, please, God, no. Anybody who has had the misfortune to see the truly appalling Wing Commander movie will be praying that Chris has a sudden change of heart."
I'm gonna go get her, all right? I'm gonna go get her. You are not. No, you are not going out there. Get away from me, you son of a bitch! Hey, you are not going out there.
Wing Commander would be the only feature film Chris Roberts directed.
So not only that it's like bad acting, which is not on, like, Chris is not going to be responsible for that, right? But the premise of the whole scene is just like, okay.
He would instead focus his attention on producing movies, helping other directors achieve their creative vision. During his stint in Hollywood, he racked up a few producer credits, such as The Jacket, Lucky Number 11, and most notably, Lord of War starring Nicolas Cage. By the late 2000s, Roberts started to get the itch to make video games again, and by that point, technology had vastly improved. It was time to reignite his dream of developing the ultimate space simulation game. But Roberts didn't just want to walk back into a corporate studio environment. The suits would just kill his vibes, man. But with the rise of independent game publishing, maybe he wouldn't have to.
You like the movie because of fandom.
Chris Roberts decided it was time to make his pitch directly
It
to
is a
the
train
people.
wreck.
But I don't want to build any old game. I want to build a universe. My name is Chris Roberts, and I would like to build a universe with you.
In 2011, Chris Roberts founded Cloud Imperium Games and got to work building a prototype
I mean, the graphics are much better than this now, I
for
guess.
Star Citizen using CryEngine. He first unveiled snippets of gameplay and concept art at the Game Development Conference in October 2012, making his pitch for crowdfunding on stage. Given that Star Citizen has become the poster child of crowdfunding, it's interesting to note that Roberts initially considered other options to fund his game. Taking inspiration from the independent publishing successes of League of Legends and Minecraft, he originally courted private investors and even considered selling pre-orders for an alpha directly to the fans. But after seeing the success of Double Fine's Broken Age, which raised over $3 million on Kickstarter in early 2012, Roberts decided crowdfunding was the best route to gain investment for Star Citizen. Initially, CIG started raising funds on their own website, but the studio was unprepared for the amount of support they were about to receive. After launching their independent crowdfunding webpage, the site received so much traffic that it crashed their servers.
Yeah.
But despite these setbacks, they still managed to raise over $1 million in a single week before bringing the project to Kickstarter in mid-October 2012. The crowdfunding campaign was a massive...
And if I can remind you of the original Kickstarter and the crowdfunding thing was, and I'm gonna get attacked again, but just fucking look into it, it was Star Citizen. Star Citizen was accompanied by Squadron 42 as a single-player game mode. You can see it on the Kickstarter. You can see it on the original, like,
of success. By the
RSI
end of
page.
2012, Star Citizen raised over $2.1 million on Kickstarter and an additional $5 million on their own website. They also surpassed all stretch goals for their campaign,
Like,
which included...
Rattlehead, even then, I was like, should I invest in this? Like, it wasn't that much money, but also, like, for the whatever. But it looked a bit scammy, honestly. But the success of this, of Star Citizen, and a couple of more things, a couple of more projects, made me and a couple of my friends and me, because I talked them into it, to kickstart a movie in Serbia, and it worked.
Adding new things to the project like celebrity voice acting for the single-player story and 100 star systems in the final game on launch. There are several factors that explain the success of Star Citizen's initial crowdfunding efforts. For starters, by the early 2010s, there was a huge gap in the market for an ambitious space simulation game. The genre had become pretty much dormant for over a decade, with all the big box publishers sticking to safer categories like FPS and RPGs. Second, despite being out of the business for so long, Roberts still had an excellent reputation in the industry for his work on Wing Commander and Freelancer. Many gamers and developers alike were excited to see what Roberts would produce next. Roberts also put an emphasis on pushing the boundaries of technology.
I pledged my for the Aurora back in late 2020 or early 2021. And it was like 3.11 or 3.12.
And being a PC-only game, which was another gap in the market. In the early 2010s, most AAA developers were focused on console, treating the PC market as an afterthought. Finally, Roberts had an excellent pitch, selling people on the dream of what Star Citizen could be. An epic spacefaring adventure where you could go anywhere and be anyone you wanted to be. But despite raising millions in a matter of months, Roberts knew they would need additional funding to build the full game. In an interview with Game Informer, he estimated the full project would cost between $12 and $14 million, which is why they continued raising funds on their own website after the Kickstarter campaign ended. From the beginning, Roberts wanted to engage the community in the project. This would ensure direct feedback on the alpha version of the game, as well as continued funding from an activated audience. Our job is to entertain our audience during the 2 years they'll be waiting for the game, Roberts told Game Industry Biz. I want to make the journey for everyone that backed it as fun as the actual game. I want them to get to the point where they feel like they got their money's worth before the finished game is actually released. That's a big priority for me.
And if you invested $45, that will be completely true. But for some of us that invested much more, that is unfortunately not true.
To this end, CIG created a community forum where backers of the game could post and interact. They also posted regular updates on their website and YouTube channel to keep backers informed about the progress of the project. The first alpha version of Star Citizen was released in 2013, allowing players to dive into the game and provide feedback on the earliest builds. CIG took a modular approach to development, releasing new game modes, vertical slices, and features piecemeal over time. While the process was somewhat slow and the alpha builds had many bugs, they had the benefit of engaging the community directly in the development process. It also had the benefit of increasing crowdfunding. The money just kept rolling in. $20 million in September 2013, $35 million in December, eventually crossing $50 million in August 2014. Star Citizen was now approaching the budget size of a major AAA game release, which increased excitement around the project, encouraging even more funding. I'm confident now that
I'm not even going to tell you how much I invested. And most of it wasn't really my money. Some of it was like people that are like, or most of it was like people that are supporting me, and that could only like send me PayPal or like credit cards things, so I can only like buy stuff. And what else am I gonna buy except like ships in Star Citizen to give them away or to review them? So yeah,
be able to compete with any AAA game out there. I can't do what I did with Freelancer or what id did with Rage and take 5 years to release it. At that point, the moment in time will be gone. But in 2 years, it will be pretty great. But the appeal of an insanely ambitious
plus my referral
space game
ships
doesn't...
Well, the thing with the referral ships is that you can upgrade them. You can like CCU upwards. So whenever I get a referral ship, I just CCU up to the like thing that I want to have, or to the thing that I want to have because of the what's it called, the loaners. So sometimes I even get, so I have spent maybe $100 to get the Odyssey because I got the referral thing, and then I had like a lot of money in the store already because of the people that sent me some money. So I think I spent like $100, but now I have the Odyssey, so I have the Carrack right now in the game, so I can like do some gameplay action with the Carrack.
Fully explain the success of Star Citizen's crowdfunding efforts. The company had raised over $50 million in less than 2 years. You're not going to raise that kind of money with a few blog posts and a bare-bones alpha. In order to totally understand how Roberts and CIG managed to smash crowdfunding...
I'm just going to tell you, if I didn't invest that much money, I wouldn't like be begging for a fucking boost for to buy a new PC for better streams and videos.
Funding records, we need to dive into the wild world of luxury virtual starships.
Yeah, don't buy anything. Just have like a starter ship or whatever, and you're good. You're golden.
So how much could a virtual ship in an unfinished space game possibly cost? $20, maybe $30? $1,100! Holy!
Oh, fuck off! You start off with that. Yes, all the ships in the game are overpriced, or in the game, outside the game, in the store, are overpriced. But why would you start with a Carrack?
Shit! Star Citizen has managed to raise a good portion of its funds through the sale of luxury-priced spaceships, which range in cost from $25 to over $1,000. Some of these are offered to the public before the assets have even been created in the game. It's kind of genius, really. CIG.
The most genius thing is that if you go to the store, let me see if I can do that here. So if you go to the store, you can see that there is a lot of ships in the range. I just don't want to open it in this. Give me a second. I'm not seeing the chat right now. Hangar, ship upgrades. There we go. So there's a lot of ships in the range to like $700. Like once you pass 500, there's like less and less ships. But the most genius part is, look at this, 20, 25, 30. And then you have a couple of them that are 30, 35, 35, 40, 40, 45, 50, 55. And all of that, like those like $5 increments go like almost up to $300. 140, 145, 150. That's the genius part. 155, 165. Now this is like a $10 increments, but we will get a ship in between these two. Like, you know it. So that's a genius thing. So people just like, even though maybe they like, even if they don't need that much or a better ship or a different ship, it's just like $5. Like, I don't need it, but it's $5, and it's like $5 every time. And in the end, you're like $200 down the line.
He uses an interesting mix of tactics to encourage their supporters to buy these ships, including forced scarcity and loss aversion.
Is 150.
Let's take a closer look at how this works. In 1984, psychologist Robert Cialdini published a book called Influence. This title explores the way marketers and salespeople leverage human psychology to influence people's decision-making. Chapter 7 explores the concept of scarcity. Opportunities seem more valuable to us when their availability is limited. Companies can increase demand for their products by introducing artificial scarcity, such as limiting the number of available units for sale and creating deadlines for the purchase. In December 2014, CIG released the Javelin Starship for the cool price of $2,500. The catch was there were only 200 of these ships available. This artificial scarcity drove fans
Which was not true.
the entire batch within 5 minutes, netting CIG $500,000 in the process. But who is buying these highly priced virtual ships? All sorts of people, apparently. A quick Google search reveals dozens of articles and interviews with people who've spent tens of thousands of dollars on luxury ships in Star Citizen. Vice even published an article about a guy who sold his virtual fleet to purchase a used car in real life.
Honestly, I should probably do one of those interviews with a couple of friends that I have that have spent a lot of money. Faithless, that's like a really good friend of mine, and we know each other for like 2 years now. He has spent like $40,000. It was like $25K in the store, and then like he bought some stuff in the Star Hangar. Then you have Atlas that has like, I don't know how many accounts, but basically on all of his accounts, he has like the 600i that's like executive edition. So that's like $25K, I think. So yeah. And they're watching my channel.
Been up on the metaverse for a Hyundai Elantra, bro? You might be thinking, Why would anyone spend thousands of dollars on virtual ships in an unfinished game? The answers may surprise you. In June 2021, YouTuber
I love
Gamer
that South Park
interviewed a software
episode.
engineer who spent over $100,000 on his Star Citizen fleet. Listen to the reason why he purchased the ships.
I think originally it's because I wanted a specific ship, but you can only get it in the Praetorian pack or something. I don't recall. Then it became, the prices on these things are ridiculous. And
Yep.
I was like, I just want to fly around an 890 jump in the end game. Okay, well, I have to pay to repair them. I have to pay to fuel it. I have to pay all this with in-game money. I don't know if I necessarily want to, at the time, play in-game loops to do that. Then it evolved to just bugs. Like if a ship, like there's nothing more annoying than pay for a ship and it gets stuck and it's like, oh, you can do a character reset. I can
So if I only had a 5% of that, I could get, or even like a 4% of that, I could get a new PC.
also just buy another one.
100
And
fucking
for whatever
thousand,
reason,
dude.
sometimes that's more appealing to me.
Does he regret it? No, not at all. Both of them are like, it's disposable income. I would spend it on something else. So I have ships in a game, and both of them are like, I want this game to be great, but also if it dies, it dies. Like whatever happens, happens. I don't care.
Especially if it's like a $150 ship or $200 ship. For me, time is money. So I look at, okay, how many hours is it going to take, for me to go
I mean, time is money, yes, but also why would you play a game then if time is money?
from this end of the space station to the other end to go buy all the stuff that's on my character's inventory? Hell, it's cheaper to buy a spaceship.
Are you planning to spend more?
I always tell myself I'm never going to spend another dollar. And all I have to do is release another spaceship and I'll spend more.
But Roberts isn't just selling his fans cool virtual ships, he's also selling them a dream. They're not just buying expensive cruisers, they're supporting development on what could be the greatest space game ever
potential.
made, if they just open up their wallets a bit wider. In November 2015, PC Gamer published an interview with a fan who spent over $30,000 on virtual ships in Star Citizen. This guy, who also happens to be a software engineer, emphasized that the main reason he bought ships was to support the creation of his dream game. He'd purchased nearly every ship in the game,
My chat
including
died
the
for some
completionist
reason.
package, which costs $15,000.
It's not updating.
So if I think
What's up,
about,
Grifter?
I've helped create a project that I think is going to be game-changing for the next decade, I'm okay with that. I know that I'm going to spend more. Roberts has repeatedly defended CIG's practice of selling these spaceships, including their hefty price tags. He says that people don't have to buy them to enjoy the game, but if they do, these funds help support the game's development. While there were a few eyebrow raises from media outlets over Star Citizen's monetization practices, overall most of the press was positive about the game in the first 2 years of the project. The studio continued to build on the alpha version of the game with piecemeal modules, and the funds kept rolling in, surpassing $50 million by fall 2014. Roberts had managed to build a strong community of paying backers eager for Star Citizen. In March 2013, Roberts told Game Informer that Cloud Imperium Games had 26 full-time employees. By September of the following year, that number had grown to 270 employees working in 5 different locations. To put this into context, this is almost triple the size of the team that developed Skyrim. So you'd think with all the resources and people that CIG had accumulated, they'd be able to deliver the game on time, right? Well, no. And as the initial November 2014 release window came and went, the backers of Star Citizen started asking, dude,
Yeah, my chat died, so I'm just gonna pull the camera down. I don't know what's happening to Restream and their chat, but I can see that like Twitch chat is like you guys are commenting, but it's not showing on the chat at all. So
dude, where's my game? On New Year's Eve 2014,
Diablo Immortal, I never played that.
Chris Roberts posted one of his regular updates to the studio's website. Star Citizen had already missed the original November 2014 release target that was advertised on their Kickstarter page, so Roberts wanted to update the community on where the game stood going into 2015. Star Citizen isn't a sprint. It isn't even a marathon. There is no final finish line the way you would have with a traditional retail game. Star Citizen is a way of life for as long as the community is engaged by it. Or, in Silas Corner's words, dare to challenge the expectation of what has come before, to embrace the unique, to put everything on the line. Only when you risk everything can we discover something truly special. Translation, we're not shipping the fucking game yet. 2015 is the year when Cloud Imperium Games started to face massive criticism for their handling of the Star Citizen project. While backers had been patient for the first 2 years CIG worked on the game, when the company missed their initial release window, people started asking questions. Stretch goals were a major part of CIG's initial crowdfunding efforts. As they reached new tiers of funding, they continued to add new features to their development roadmap. At first glance, this was good. More money meant that the studio could improve the game and make it even more ambitious. The problem was that Roberts seemed to endlessly add new ideas to Star Citizen, and as more money rolled in, the scope of the project continued to grow before previous features were even completed. This process is often called feature creep, a word that Star Citizen's critics began tossing around in a flood of articles during 2015. Fans have dropped $77 million on this guy's buggy, half-built game. Why is Star Citizen taking so long? And what the hell is going on with Star Citizen? Chris Roberts was incredibly defensive of the game's expanding scope, stating in a July 2015 blog post, "There are people out there who are going to tell you that this is all a bad thing, that it's feature creep, and we should make a smaller, less impressive game for the sake of having it out more quickly or in order to meet artificial deadlines." Now I'll answer those claims in one word: bullshit. While conducting research for this video, there is a trend I noticed here. Roberts and CIG often do not respond to criticism gracefully. When rival game developer Derek Smart encouraged Star Citizen backers to ask for refunds, Roberts said, "Derek Smart couldn't make a good game with $200 million, so I don't think his opinion matters." And when The Escapist published a series of articles critical of CIG's internal HR
I didn't know that
practices
Chris actually responded to that. That's wild. That's wild that he would go like that low to respond to fucking critics in that manner. Also, you could maybe even agree with him because I saw a game that Derek Smart made, and it was like a space game, and it was dog shit, honestly. But
his opinion matters. And when The Escapist published a series of articles critical of CIG's internal HR practices and financial management, the studio threatened to sue them if they didn't issue a retraction. While many fans were happy that CIG could expand on the vision of Star Citizen, some backers just wanted their money back. In an August 2015 report, Polygon cited, "Much of the consumer dissatisfaction stems from how little of the promised game has so far been released, and how often various modules have been delayed." But despite this mounting criticism, Chris Roberts stuck to his guns. "When Star Citizen and Squadron 42 are out there, I think the game will speak for itself. The noise we're dealing with now will not be there. Star Citizen was delayed until late 2016.
the noise.
Two are out there, I think the game will speak for itself."
So this is I guess the first time they called the critiques the noise.
"The noise we're dealing with now will not be there. Star Citizen was delayed until late 2016, and while there was a lot of criticism of the game's slow progress, the funding kept rolling in, reaching $100 million by December 2015. But missed deadlines and bumpy development would continue to plague the studio into 2016 and 17. The first-person shooter campaign, Star Marine, was delayed. Squadron 42, the single-player campaign, was delayed as well. Eventually, CIG stopped providing concrete release.
It was delayed. Okay, it was delayed
rolling in, reaching $100 million
because it's not up to their standards yet.
But missed deadlines and bumpy development would continue to plague the studio into 2016 and 17. The first-person shooter
not up to their standards yet. Is it up to their standards right now?
Campaign, Star Marine, was delayed. Squadron.
Okay, I think the chat is working again, so I'm gonna move the camera.
Eventually,
the stream might die if I do this, but
concrete release dates,
maybe not.
And started discussing the project as more of an early access / live service style game.
Star Citizen is never.
I have never entered Star Marine ever in my life. Ever. So I can't tell you if there's anyone in the lobby. I'm not in the lobby.
Be finished. I don't think people.
I saw how it worked.
World of Warcraft.
I had a friend that streamed it to me on Discord, and I was like, shit, I'm not going to play this.
Now, Star Citizen will go on. That universe will go on as long as anyone's out there wanting to play in it, which I'm hoping
It never worked, kind of.
What we're doing with Star Citizen is we're sort of working on the game, adding features for an incredibly ambitious design. I don't think there's any other game
It was too good, so that's why they didn't release it.
trying to do as much as we're trying to do.
Amazing.
So, degree of difficulty 11, not 10.
But why was development taking so long? In order to understand that, we need to peek behind the scenes at some of the technical challenges CIG was facing. There are a variety of factors that made developing Star Citizen a massive challenge for CIG, including the rapid expansion of the studio, the game engine they were using, heavy reliance on contractors, and management of the project. By 2016, the studio had grown to 369 employees across 5 different locations in Europe and North America. Being geographically dispersed meant that CIG could hire from a larger talent pool than if they were centralized in 1 or 2 cities. But creating a company culture and management structure...
Oh, I have this piece of shit joystick still. I don't know what to do with it. It was... My Sidewinder, the Microsoft one from like the early 2000s, was better than this piece of shit.
Across 5 studios to efficiently develop Star Citizen proved to be a considerable challenge. Their decision to develop the game in CryEngine also created significant technical issues. CryEngine was one of the most technologically advanced game engines available at the time, especially for graphical fidelity.
You don't need it.
It had been developed primarily for first-person shooters like Crysis, not massive online games. CIG had to make a lot of custom changes to the engine to suit the needs of their game, such as converting from 32 to 64-bit. CryEngine was also not widely used in the industry outside.
Yeah, just like slap a sticker,
documented,
a Grumpy Eye sticker on it.
CIG to hire
merch available in the store, but I'm kidding. But yeah, just slap a sticker on it and sell it for like 500.
Developers who knew the engine well. This forced the studio to heavily rely on contractors in third-party studios to work on various aspects of the game, which created even more problems. CIG hired a Denver-based company called Ilphonic to work on their FPS module Star Marine.
Flight stick.
But due to communication and QA issues, much of what Ilphonic worked on was scrapped and redone in-house, which forced them to delay the release of that module. There's also the sense that perhaps the studio was trying to tackle too many things simultaneously. They were developing the single-player campaign called Squadron 42, as well as the persistent universe, ship combat, FPS combat, the online elements of the game, and fixing bugs and glitches for existing modules all at the same time. One CIG developer told Kotaku UK how challenging this was for the company. You can solve those problems.
I think they stopped giving interviews to Kotaku because, yeah, Kotaku just like tends to focus on the worst things when it comes to Star Citizen.
But when everyone is trying to solve all the problems all at the same time, you're going to do nothing but waste money and come across huge technical limitations that you're going to need more hands-on to solve. The problems were inherent from the beginning. It's just not a wise decision to attempt everything at once. Another former developer described the current scope of Star Citizen as an impossible pipe dream. They can't make what they've promised. Absolutely not. If it happened, then I would believe in God. Finally, Chris Roberts' uncompromising vision and domineering management style kept things moving at a snail's pace. I noticed this particular point come up over and over during my research on this video. Interviews with inside sources by Kotaku UK in 2016 and Forbes in 2019 both corroborated this. To his credit, Roberts has acknowledged the criticisms, even if he disagrees with their conclusions. He defends his scope and vision of Star Citizen. It's not easy. I think the difference between a great game and an okay game is people that try to do the hard things. It's the JFK speech about going to the moon. We do it because it's hard, not because it's easy. That's what I expect from the team.
You did it because of the Russians. So the Russians don't beat you.
Despite the bumpy development and critics, CIG kept working on the game and
It got easier. I mean, I guess he was right because it got easier over time, but we never went there again. So, yeah. So they did it because it was hard, right?
releasing new features. The FPS mode, Star
Yeah, Kotaku is a
Marine,
meme.
eventually came out in December 2016, and CIG released Alpha 3.0 in December 2017, which included 3 explorable moons and atmospheric flight. So while development was not moving as fast as anyone had hoped, new content was being added to Star Citizen. Nonetheless, crowdfunding had been trending downwards, and CIG only had 14 million left in reserve at the end of 2017. If the studio didn't start bringing in more money fast, the death of Star Citizen looked like it was right around the corner.
Wait, where was this from?
Start bringing in more.
What was this video? Because you
Only
can
had
see
14
the...
million left in reserve at the end of 2017. If the studio didn't start
The
bringing
ship.
in more money fast, the death of Star Citizen looked like it
Reclaimer, Retaliator, fucking repurpose, redo, reinvent, what is it fucking called? Redeemer, thank you.
was right
Fucking
around
hell.
the corner.
Okay. Jesus Christ, all the reads.
More than 5 years after the launch of Star Citizen's Kickstarter campaign, Cloud Imperium Games had become a colossal
Jans?
operation. The scope of the game had grown
Refunder.
massively and
Aegis Refunder. Online.
Aegis Refunder Online.
more than 5 years after the launch of Star Citizen's Kickstarter campaign, Cloud Imperium Games had become a colossal operation. The scope of the game had grown massively, and the company was burning.
Oh yeah. We have this in the game right now. Yeah, sure.
Operation. The scope of the game had grown massively, and the company was burning through cash at a rapid clip. One former developer said, "I think Chris Roberts got too much money too fast, that he wasn't held accountable for his words, actions, or things he was supposed to deliver, and he turned the project into a runaway idea." YouTuber Upper Echelon Gamers describes
runaway idea? What does that mean? Let me Google it. What does he mean by that? Like he's gonna run away with the money, or I don't get it.
Supposed to deliver, and he turned the project into a runaway idea. YouTuber Upper Echelon Gamers describes Star Citizen as a black hole of time and money.
You could run into a game like Star Citizen, where they invest most of the budget into marketing and staff salaries, and then they task the staff with creating material that they can sell and market so that they can get more money to invest in marketing and staff salaries, so that they can, like, blah, blah, blah. You get the point. Around and around in the circle we go. A black hole.
Oh, an idea that got out of
If
hands.
CIG was going to keep its doors open and continue paying hundreds of employees to work on Robert's dream game, they were going to need more money. We've already discussed the luxury ships of Star Citizen, but these weren't the only practices the studio was using to raise money in late
By the way, do you know that the Phoenix was supposed to be modular?
Money.
And I've heard, I'm not sure if... Yeah, I get it, Jans, thank you. I'm not sure if that's actually happening right now, but I've heard that in 3.18, they brought the modularity back to the Phoenix, even though we never had it. So instead of the pool, you can select the, what's it called? The piano. And spawn it with the piano instead of the pool.
We've already discussed the luxury ships of Star Citizen, but these weren't the only practices the studio was using to raise money.
What isn't supposed to be modular? That's also a good question.
In November 2017, CIG began selling plots of land in the game for $50 to $100 a pop.
I've heard about this.
Which kind of reminds me of Earth 2 now that I think of it. In August 2018, they removed the cap on how much in-game currency players could keep in their inventory. There were two main ways of earning credits in Star Citizen.
So, I don't know if you followed Earth 2, but it's such a scam that it's just fucking amazing that people are still falling for it.
The game for $50 to $100 a pop, which kind of reminds me of Earth 2 now that I think of it. In August 2018,
at least CAG stopped doing that, I guess.
They removed the cap on how much in-game currency players could keep in their inventory. There were two main ways of earning credits in Star Citizen: either earn it in the game, or pay to buy it in the cash shop. Many backers saw unlimited credit hoarding as a way to encourage players to purchase currency with real money, thus making the game pay to win. CIG eventually reversed the decision after backlash from their fan base. The studio became embroiled in a legal battle with Crytek as well. Not long after CIG switched from CryEngine to Amazon's Lumberyard engine, Crytek sued the company for breach of contract and copyright infringement. The case was eventually settled out of court in 2020 after several years of posturing. In December 20,
I would really love to know how much they paid Crytek for that.
2018, Chris Roberts received a lifeline in the form of a private investment. Billionaire record producer Clive Calder and his son Keith provided CIG with $46 million in exchange for 10% of the company and several seats on its board of directors. They also reached $200 million in total crowdfunding by the end of 2018. From here, 2019 was pretty much business as usual. New features were added to the game, more critical articles talked about the length of the project, Squadron 42 was delayed again,
he doesn't have a beard,
and more crowdfunding continued to roll in. But in 2020, some of the backers of Star Citizen began asking if this project would ever be completed. Let's dig a little bit deeper on Star Citizen's single-player campaign called Squadron 42. It was originally proposed as part of the Kickstarter pitch back in 2012.
Single-player game mode for Star Citizen. People are not gonna trust me again, even though I made a fucking video on that. I know that Salty Mike didn't trust me. And then he like went down the fucking rabbit hole, and basically on the stream he was like Googling and trying to research everything for like an hour and a half. And then in the end, yeah. So search for game mode. Where the fuck is it? Okay. Single player, offline or online. All right. A Wing Commander style, so Squadron 42 is a Wing Commander style single player mode, playable offline if you want. Playable offline, or you can see this, offline or online co-op with friends. You can sign up for a tour of duty with the UAE fleet, manning the front lines, protecting settlements from dual warbands. The Kickstarter's name is Star Citizen. Just saying.
CIG hired a number of big-name actors like Mark Hamill, Gary Oldman, and Gillian Anderson. They also built a mocap studio to create cinematics. But after 8 years, CIG had little to show for it, aside from a handful of trailers and the announcement of numerous delays. To put this into context, in a similar time frame, from 2007 to 2014, BioWare was able to release 3 Mass Effect games and 3 Dragon Age games, including numerous expansions for each title. One of CIG's most common explanations for the slow pace of development is that they were working on the technology behind the game. By summer of 2020, CIG had missed another release window for Squadron 42 and was basically radio silent about their roadmap. Backers began to post questions and critical comments about the progress of Squadron 42 in the Star Citizen forums. CIG responded by
even the roadmap and the progress tracker wouldn't work, honestly. That's the main issue with Star Citizen, and that's like the mainest, I guess, issue with Squadron 42 is that like they're gonna give us a monthly report every month, and they're gonna tell us what they did, but we never know how much is left. That's the issue. We can only assume, like compare it to Star Citizen, and like according to what we have in Star Citizen, because it's the same engine, it's the same game basically, how much will we need to have in Star Citizen so we can assume that Squadron 42 is like just around the corner. Like that's the issue. We yes, we do get like monthly reports, and yes, there's transparency, but also when. how much is left.
By saying their roadmap reveal, which was hinted at several months prior, was delayed because they were still working on the technology behind the roadmap.
They don't know because they have no idea what else they want to add. That's the issue. I didn't listen to this. Give me a second.
Was delayed because they were still working on the technology behind the roadmap.
Yeah. Okay.
Bro, you can't make this shit up. We really do live in the wildest timeline. Forum user Hawks fired back in the comments, and you still don't get it. It's not about a fancy update video. It's not about a shiny trailer. It's not even about a new updated version of the vertical slice, though after nearly 3 years that would be cool. It's about simple things. How far along is Squadron 42 really? Is Squadron 42 beta ready for this year? If not, why not? What are the problems? Did you scrap half of
This shit will get you banned.
it again like you did in 2016? If so, what was scrapped and why? But most important, what is the estimate for a release window? 2021, 2022, 2023? If there was no release window, there was no end to what you do.
I think he is being hyperbolic and disingenuous. And I think we're done here. And yeah, just ban him.
And thus, this will go on forever. No answers were forthcoming to any of these questions, but Chris Roberts did an AMA on the forums in October to celebrate the 8th anniversary of Star Citizen. Backers could ask Chris anything, so long as anything did not include questions on timelines or schedules, no when questions. Naturally, Squadron 42 came up, with one commenter hoping for some...
And the only question that you can like make instead of the when question is like, you can't even make, like, what is the question that people mostly ask? You telling Grumpy Writer CAG. Yeah, so it's not like how far along, how far down the line we will see it. How far along are you? Like, it's such a fucking, and then you don't even fucking get an answer.
More clarity about timetables for features. Roberts responded, I answered the question you asked, just not the question you wanted answered. Smiley face. You're not really asking about what is being worked.
So what was the question? I remember this. Finally, a lot of people just want to know when a feature or the game will be done, and I think that's the crux of the issue. It's impossible to please all the people all the time, and with a project as complicated as Star Citizen or even Squadron 42, it's impossible to have an ironclad dates due to the huge amount of ongoing R&D. Emphasis mine, I answered the question you asked, just not the question you wanted answered.
Not the question you wanted answered. Smiley face. You're not really asking about...
I trolled you.
What is being worked on Squadron 42. You really just want to know when it will be done. The best answer for your question is Squadron 42 will be done when it is done.
Yes.
And will not be released just to make a date, but instead once all the tech and content is finished, polished, and it plays great. As I'm making this video, nearly 2 years later, there is still no release date or new gameplay reveal for Squadron 42.
Yep.
Nobody outside Chris Roberts has any clue when the single-player component of Star Citizen will be available. CIG did eventually release the fancy roadmap on their website, but this proved troublesome as well. After backers noticed CIG was repeatedly missing deadlines, the studio significantly scaled back the information they shared in these roadmaps in February 2022,
and called us
Roberts
noise again.
Stating, there still remains a very loud contingent of roadmap watchers who see projections as promises, and their continued noise every time we shift deliverables has become a distraction both internally at CIG and within our community. But none of these pesky roadmap watchers, media critics, or annoying YouTubers could slow down Star Citizen, which saw its largest growth in player counts and funding over the course of 2020 to 2022. This growth can be attributed, at least in part, to the massive increase in gaming and entertainment following the 2020 pandemic and lockdowns.
And you know what the worst part is? Like, Squadron 42 is a meat shield. Like, they hide behind it all the fucking time. oh, we can't do this because Squadron 42. We can't do this in Star Citizen because of Squadron 42, etc. And then like where's the game then? And then if they ever release it, you're gonna have at least 2 more sequels that are already planned. So
June 2020, the project surpassed $300 million. Then
yeah, I did. I have.
In November 2021. Recently, Chris Roberts projected Star Citizen was on track to reach $500 million in total crowdfunding by the end of 2022. Additionally, they expect to reach 1 million unique players and 4 million player accounts this year. In response to some of the Star Citizen forum critics, Chris Roberts said, "I can promise you the gameplay I described is..."
Let me pause for a second. Bambi, you just posted in Twitch and in my Discord. You can see my reaction to it on my second channel. Check it out in my Discord. So I think it should be, yeah, it's already live.
Is not a pipe dream, nor will it take 10 to 20 years to deliver. But given Star Citizen's track record and the project's lack of accountability, why should we believe him?
We shouldn't. Shit, if I say that, then content creators, some of them are gonna say that I'm pathetic. Maybe. Because I already did. But people don't fucking like me because of that, because I don't trust Chris Roberts. Anyway.
Star Citizen is truly a game like no other. The dream of a massive space simulation.
And of course, most of the community is going to hate me for that.
Crafted by an uncompromising visionary and fueled directly by the fans. Over 10 years in development and $500 million are invested in this project with no end in sight. Will Star Citizen ever have a feature-complete commercial release? It seems unlikely. Roberts has repeatedly stressed the live service nature of the game, saying things like it's not a sprint, it's not even a marathon, and Star Citizen will never be finished.
It's a what then? If it's not a marathon, what is it then?
Citizen's development cycle reminds me of...
At this point, it's just like tourism, honestly. You come back after a while, you check it out, see what changed, and go back home and play other games.
Scene from the movie Snatch,
it's life support.
Where Jason Statham's character is waiting for his buddy to finish making sausages.
What's happening with those sausages, Charlie?
Double new turkeys.
Oh, I remember this. This was amazing.
What's happening with them sausages, Charlie?
5 mini turkeys.
It was 2 minutes, 5 minutes ago.
Star Citizen will most likely remain in a permanent early access state so long as Cloud Imperium Games can continue generating the funds necessary to support the project. Honestly, what incentive do they have?
This is the issue. Like, we can only assume this. We don't know this as a fact. We can only assume this. It looks like that for sure, but maybe we are wrong. That's the problem. But with the past, they have shown us they showed us that they showed us a lot, and we like by now we know that we shouldn't trust them, and that maybe we should trust our instincts, and like our instincts are fucking spidey senses are tingling and saying that we shouldn't trust them and that this guy is right.
Have to fully release the game at this point. They've already raked in
I stopped there so you can rest your eyes.
hundreds of millions of dollars with zero accountability on their deliverables. Why would they do anything differently now? If their fans and backers are satisfied with the project overall, they'll continue to fund it, and I see no problem with that. As long as they're happy with the progress, I guess that's all that matters. But given CIG's track record and Chris Roberts' vision of the game, I don't have a lot of confidence that Star Citizen will ever live up to the dream. Thank you all for watching. This video was a massive undertaking in research, but I had a lot of...
It's a really good video, honestly.
So
I did not expect
be sure
this.
To leave a like and subscribe to Big Dan Gaming.
It's not really exposed. It's like whatever.
I'd love to hear your thoughts on Star
Clickbait to a
Citizen
bit.
as well. Do you think it will ever release? Have you played it or enjoyed it? Let me know in the comments below. Video. Also, big shout out to all the channel.
There is nothing to not agree with in this video. That's the issue. Like, I can't disagree with anything here. I can maybe say that I can't even fucking say that because he covered it. He covered everything, and this is why I love watching videos. I can't see that at all, unfortunately. Was that Revengix? I don't see it, but yeah, like I love watching videos from other people that are not in the Star Citizen community, that are not Star Citizens. Oh, Revengix donated 1,000 points. Thank you, Revengix. I forgot what I wanted to say. I don't even know what points are, but thank you, I guess. Fear of missing out? I don't know, dude. I don't know. Like, I love watching, that's what I want to say. I love... Thank you, Tony, for another 1,000 points. Oh, redeemed. Okay, so that's how it works. Okay, that's like the channel points. Okay. Okay, well, it said donated. I have no idea. But I love watching people... Fuck's sake. I love watching other people's... Like, people that are not the citizens of the stars like we are. Now fucking play it again, come on. Thank you. I love watching those kinds of videos because they give me a certain perspective as an outsider, and it's completely different to like what we as people from Star Citizen community would say and see, because we are not as objective as these guys are, and this is really well researched. And I just can't anymore. This violin is just like torturing me. But yeah, that for fuck's sake. Am I gonna play Kerbal Space 2? I've heard that it's completely broken, so no, I'm not. I am not. But yeah, anyway, let's watch another video. Jesus Christ. It was a really good video. I liked it, and I don't know if I shared it, but fuck it. There you go again. That's it.